Yo, what's up, baby? It's Fordee from Can't Stop Art. So let's continue on the journey. We have this ombre we painted yesterday. Actually, this is not the one. This is the one, but I covered it in tape, and I wanted to show you what it looks like. And it's basically a gradation from white to dark purple with two blues in between. This one did not come out as good as the one in the video yesterday, but I had this one and I was recording, and anyway, so we've got it covered in tape here. I used the blue masking tape. You can use other types of masking tape. This is thinner than the blue masking tape from 3M. However, being thinner means it lifts a little bit sometimes when you pour fluid acrylic, right? Right here in this cup, let's see if I take my hand away. In this cup I have paint that's mixed with Floetrol. Grabbing it real quick. Floetrol is basically used for keeping the paint fluid, right? It's you usually mix it with house paint when you're painting the walls so you don't see brush strokes. It's a drying retarder. It slows down the drying, etc. You can use pouring medium from Liquitex, for example. You could even use just water. The idea is to get a honey-like consistency in here, but we are going to create another video right after this one showing you how I mix my paint for acrylic pours, which is how I get this effect right here in the cat, right? The cat and the moon and the star. So what we're going to do, using this as our example, is we're going to take this board, which has an ombre painted on it, and we are going to draw this design of the moon, the cat, the star, and we're going to cut it out with an X-Acto blade. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to do this by eye. Obviously, you could use a stencil, or you could pre-draw this, etc. So I think this has to come something like this, right? And maybe much lower. And it's okay if I make mistakes here, because what's important is I see what I'm going to cut and what I'm not going to cut, right? So this comes like this. This one comes here. Turn the board here. There we go, something like that. There's our moon. It is not perfect. That's okay. Anyway, so next we're going to have this star over here. Something to this effect, right? And we need our kitty cat, right? So I don't know if I drew this in the same proportion as before, but he has his head here, or her head, right? Looking this direction, the arm comes up to reach. This is getting quite close to the star, right? So maybe this cat is more dedicated to reaching this star, right? It's going to come down, it's going to come to his leg. We'll make a little paw right there. We're going to make an indentation between this leg and the next leg. We come around the back like so, maybe like this, right? And it's going to come down. We're going to pop up and curl the tail, maybe like this. Something like that. This doesn't have to be perfect. This is abstract. And remember, this is being cut out, and we are going to have the design below. You'll notice in this piece right here that there are drips. These drips are not intentional. The thing is, when you put this liquid acrylic or acrylic pour down, sometimes it seeps underneath the tape, and when that happens you get things like this. Now in this particular example, probably what I could have done is I could have painted dark purple over this, but then this is a gradation. Would it have come out okay? I think the drips look okay. It looks kind of cool. You'll also notice in the cat's paw, for some reason paint didn't get there, but it was part of the design in the cutout because I saw the mark of the blade. So I just drew it back in. I left it empty. I could have put paint there, but I think it kind of looks cool like that, right? Also in the tip of the moon. So let me move this aside, grab my X-Acto blade, and let me remind you, when you cut into canvas board or into a canvas, you have to be really gentle, right? Use the tip of your X-Acto blade, you know, and be gentle. If your blade is not sharp, change your blade, and we're going to go here and we are going to score And anytime anytime the tape overlaps itself, it may just jump like that, right? And so one way to fix that is to go from this side, right? So that when it drops down, now we're not having that same issue. So we're going to come here. And I'm applying firm but gentle pressure, right? And again, if we cut into this canvas board, it could cause us problems from lifting, etc. However, one fix, if you do cut into the canvas board, is to varnish it to try to seal it, or hit it with some Mod Podge. If it's a canvas board, that Mod Podge is like a glue. It should create like this barrier or this seal for you, along with some varnish after the Mod Podge, or several layers of Mod Podge, right? So we're going to come here. There we go. Now we're going to come here, and I'm trying to see where my knife starts and stops to continue that same path. I'll come here right where the tail comes down. We will try to pull from the top like this, not being too firm. You know, we'll see how this works, because this is something that requires a lot of concentration, and talking is not helping my concentration because then I'm focused on talking, right? So we'll come up from down here, and then we will do the side of this cat here. And if you don't score this tape enough to cut through it, that's okay. You do have another opportunity. When you start lifting, you just got to see, oh, is it still connected? Is it going to cause me problems? You can run your blade back through it, right? So we're going to come here. We're almost done. And I went up to there, right? You can lightly see what you've cut, you know? So here we just got to do the star and his hand, and I think we've cut everything we need to cut. But I wanted to do in this direction because of the direction of the tape that overlaps each other. All right. Now just got to hit the star. And again, if you cut your canvas board or your canvas, don't be too upset. I mean, I've done it myself, you know. This takes practice, and to get that right level of touch to cut the tape, but not what's below it. So I'm warning you now, if you ruin your canvas, don't be necessarily too surprised, because it took me a while to get this level of control with the pressure. You know what I mean? Now, if it's a canvas board and you cut through it, it's not so bad. It's not so ruined. But if it's a canvas, you would have to repair the canvas. So we can pick up a side and start pulling, and notice that this maybe needs to be recut. And here it started to pick up this tape here, so we're pressing that down as hard as we can. There we go. We got one piece up, right? And let's keep doing that, picking up more pieces and trying to get everything good. And if there's little pieces like this, you can either go back and cut that or leave it, because yeah, it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. Plus, we will outline this thing anyway. You know what I mean? There we go. Now this one is a little bit big, so we can grab the X-Acto blade, you see, and we can say we're going to get rid of that little extension piece right there. And usually this happens where there is a tape connecting to another piece of tape, right? Which is exactly what's happening in both these spots. So next we'll come over here, try to pick up this piece. Then we are going to come here. Hopefully this piece stays down. I mean, I don't think this requires too much explanation. We're just taking the tape up where we cut it, right? So let's pull this piece right there. Getting stuck to my fingers. You can also do this, but you're going to probably scratch the paint below when you use the knife to pick up the tape. That's just something to keep in mind, which maybe doesn't matter because we're going to put a good amount of tape on top of it. So, looks like the cat is out of the hat, right? Where my sense of humor is weird today. I mean, it's always weird, to be fair, but yeah. So let's go ahead and take this part of the paw. So another thing to note when you're using this like acrylic pour stuff, the reality is it takes time to dry. Remember, we put a drying retarder in there, the thing that will basically allow you to work with the paint longer. I'm using Floetrol, but you could be using pouring medium, for example. And that's going to mean that it takes a little bit longer to dry. Now, that's just something to note. So obviously I'm going to stop this video after I pour, and we're going to come back to it when it's dry. And then what we'll do is we'll outline it, and we'll decide if we do anything else. Of course, we sign it, etc. So now you can see we've cut out our design, we've removed the tape, and now that's all that's left to do is make sure you be careful when you do this, because you could inadvertently pick up an edge, right? And we don't want to do that. We just want to make sure that it's down, right? Wherever it needs to be, because we're going to put a bunch of paint on here and we're going to move it around, and we don't want that to cause a problem with lifting. And if you move in the direction of the tape that's on top of the next tape, you're not going to lift these like pieces right there, right? So that looks pretty good, right? You'll notice I have this pre-poured. Like I said, I'm going to leave a link to the next video, which will be how to do the pouring calculations for fluid acrylics. And let's say this, it matters which order you put the paint, you know. Usually what I do is I put a base color, right? And I'm using, these are tongue depressors for medical. I buy them to mix paint. I also have different size glasses to mix paint in. So these are like little plastic shot glasses, but I use them for painting. So it allows me to, depends what size I'm working on. Now to mix smaller amounts of fluid acrylic like this for acrylic pours is a little harder than doing larger amounts actually. So when I show you, I'm going to show you in a larger cup on how to mix paint for this. And there we go. We've got this down, right? Next, we are going to take another color, and we're going to, why don't we do like purple on the bottom? Like will be the majority color on the bottom. And we'll just put like a couple dots further up. So it's there, but it's not that much, right? And we will do the opposite with the pink. The red we put in the middle, and let's put like a little bit on the bottom, but it's much more pronounced here in the middle. A couple more drops, maybe right there. And you'll notice that this is a lot of paint here, right? The more paint that you have here, the longer it's going to take to dry, right? You can't put it in front of a fan, for example, to speed up your drying, because having fresh air move over the piece will definitely speed up drying. But this may take 24 hours to dry. It may take a little bit less. There is silicone lubricant mixed with this paint, and that's what helps it basically break apart and create cells. So I have a trash can next to me. I have a little, what would this be called? A plastic squeegee, or I don't know. But you can use that for lots of different things. One of the things I'm going to use it for here is the swipe technique. So what we do is once this paint is here, is we're going to take this and we're just going to pull the paint, right? And the lighter, the better, because what you're doing is you're making, and if you can even shimmy, 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 y'all, right? As you're pulling, we can come here and we can clean up our tool, our squeegee. And again, right here, we can go like this. We can, now, I could be using a smaller one of these too, right? And we're making sure that we cover all pieces of this star, and we don't want to overwork it either. Now, you can come back and redo stuff, right? So, something like this. Now we basically move that paint in every direction. We do need one thing that it looks like I didn't bring over here. Let me grab real quick, and that's a torch. The torch is going to heat up the silicone lube in there, help the paint break apart and create more cells. Let me grab it right quick. Sweet. We'll put this to the side. And this is just a regular torch, probably used to make creme brulee or something, but you use this for this particular technique. Now again, don't leave the torch in one area. It will burn the paint, it will create fumes, plus be careful about what you're breathing in right now. But as you see, it helped to break this paint up quite a bit more. Now, if I pick this up and I tilt it to one side, this is a lot of paint. It will start to move, it will create different looks, etc. But looking at it right now, it looks gorgeous. I actually do not want to change anything, but if I wanted to, I could do this, etc. to get the cells to move around, the paint to move around, create other designs. We're gonna leave it like this, looks pretty cool, and I'll be back after this dries to show you the next step. One other thing I'm going to point out is you may be tempted to lift the paint. Usually I lift the paint before it dries. Often, however, I don't necessarily recommend that. So, we'll be back in a bit when this is dry. All right, we're back. I have this piece. It's been drying for at least 4 hours, I think, with a fan pointed in its direction. I don't know how well you can see, but right here in this area, it looks glossy and wet. However, anyway, it's probably wet. I'm not going to touch it. I could screw up the design. However, in most places, it's dry. If I touch places that are on the tape, it's more or less dry. So we can take the paint off. Just be careful in this area. However, I want to point something out. If we bring this back over here, I don't know how well that you can see, but in certain areas, it's glossy or shiny or I don't know, slimy is the wrong word, but it's the silicone lubricant that's used to break apart the paint cells. And you can actually clean that. If you wait 7 days, well, you need to wait for the paint to fully dry. All the moisture is removed, the paint has formed a bond, and then this silicone lubricant sits on top. You can take a glass cleaner with some paper towel and wipe, and you will remove the silicone lubricant. We'll do that. This has been 4 days. It probably is okay to do. We'll test a little spot. We'll do it after we take the tape off. Let's get this puppy finished, right? So I'm gonna come here. I'm gonna take the tape off. Where are you, tape? Come on, baby. Come off. And if you start on a certain side, like maybe it's easier than the other. This one, the tape is bent over, so maybe we start on this side, huh? So I'll come over here. Peel this puppy up, and look at that beautiful crisp line. The paint did not seep underneath. That's awesome. It does sometimes, and yeah, there's only so much you can do to prevent that, you know. Obviously, using a good quality tape is one of those things, but you know, to some extent, you're at the mercy. You see there's a part here that's seeped. Well, let's finish and we'll see, because I'm sure there will be a few parts, and then we decide what to do, right? Do we attempt to fix it? Do we leave it? Obviously, personal choice. For the most part, I think what you get is what you get, you know? I think whatever drips are there, you try to get them to look like they're incorporated into the design. And let's keep it going. So, if you're watching this video current, then the coronavirus has gripped the world. Everyone's on lockdown and enjoying our time. I figured I'd make these painting tutorials to keep myself busy and also to give myself some type of daily routine, regimen, I don't know, you know? And so, yeah. So, and of course, we're in the beginning of these tutorial series, so if you have any thoughts or recommendations on how to make them better, or if you have certain types of things that you like to learn, I can paint in many different styles. I know lots and lots of techniques, so feel free to post in the comments, and if I think that's something that would work for the channel, I'll go ahead and make a video on it, right? So, I suppose I could probably I could probably do this faster. It's funny, when you're talking, you focus on talking, And when you're doing something else that is not related, like right now I'm talking and it's not related to what I'm doing, so I swear it's like this other skill to be able to it's like patting your stomach and rubbing your belly, you know? But I'll get better. Don't you worry. There we go. Boom. Now, some tape, like maybe in this inside of that tail, we're going to have to use the X-Acto blade to pick up, but let's see, huh? All right. Getting closer, getting closer. There is an art, I think, into picking up the tape, right? Being careful not to hit anything, ruin anything. And like right here, the tape is about to rip, so I will reposition, grab, because maybe it's still partially wet-ish. Wet-ish. That is a word. One of my words. I make words up, guys. That's just how it is. So this needs to be picked up. Let's try to just get a corner of it. I don't want to scratch the paint right now because we're not putting anything on top except for an outline, right? So there is right here a little tape in between or next to where his tail curls. We got that. And be careful, if you get paint on your hands and you're doing this, be careful not to then put the paint back on the canvas. I mean, this came out pretty great. There is, for the most part, not many issues, you know. Right here, the point of this star, you can see the cut, or you can see the scoring. It didn't cut through the canvas, but I can see where it should have went, so that's fine. We still need to pick this up, so I'm turning this at an angle to get the light to catch where it actually starts, and I see it's right here. We're gonna try, and I'm actually poking against the tape, not necessarily the edge. I'm trying to get the tape's attention. There we go. So, I think we have all of the tape, right? I think he looks a little bit different. Maybe more boxy like this. If you put these side by side, this one works out more, right? Anyway, let's go ahead and outline this. I think that will make everything pop a little extra. I've got two different markers here to do the outline. We'll probably go with this thickness. This is a Posca PC3M. So that is the size of this point. And let's go ahead and outline this. Now we have to be careful. If you use a Posca marker over something that has silicone lubricant, this marker is going to break apart. Let's see if it happens, and then you'll see what I'm talking about. But I'm gonna try to ride the edge here, and maybe I won't talk for a second so I can focus on this outline. And ideally, see, I'm gonna go around this drip right here because, hey, it was on purpose, right? Keep it interesting. There's only two really small drips right there, as opposed to the other one had many more, you know? And it wasn't because I rushed. Sometimes you get luckier than others, you know? And so, also keep in mind when you're using one of these Posca markers or acrylic markers that it doesn't dry immediately. So if I put my hand over it, it will pick up the paint, and then I will start stamping this paint, you know, in different places, which I have done way too many times. Now over here, it's got two little drips, kind of. I'm just going to ignore them, and I'm going to paint this outline like they're not there, even though you could slightly still see them, and that's okay. I'm being careful not to touch that piece or that part that has the marker. There we go. Let's turn this. Let's bring the tail up. And I'm also being careful because, you know, some of this may still be semi-wet, right? Let's do this, maybe starting from here, come down. Now this is quite a bit of paint, so it's slightly raised compared to the background, right? Which is nice because you can glide the marker against that raised paint a little bit, you know. Don't trust it too much because obviously the marker could go over or above the paint and then screw up your design. And come here. Be really messed up if I screwed up the design already, right? Just when it's about to be done. Let's do the inside right here, right? go. And his paw then comes up from the leg, up to the arm, the back to the head. There we go. We're learning anatomy. Come on, Sensei Yimmer, catch up to the rest of me today. I did a workout today. I decided I need to get back into working out. I go through phases where I'm really good about working out and then other times where I'm really slacking, lazy, whatever. And I've decided to stop drinking because it's so easy to drink a lot during quarantine, you know? I suppose anyway, I work from home most of the time anyway, but yeah, I'm trying to give myself less excuses. So it will make me more productive for sure. And after a week or so, or 3 weeks, 4 weeks of working out, I'll start to feel healthier, you know? It's just in the beginning, it feels like you're fighting an uphill battle. But then you didn't really become out of shape overnight, you know what I mean? So you can't expect to be in shape overnight. So I'm being careful not to press too hard with the marker because if you do, what will happen is a bunch of ink will come out and oops, that won't be what we wanted. This is the part where there's a little bit that didn't come paint, so I'm going to paint up, leave that part empty. It's okay. Pick this up so you can see it. So in the top of this star right here, there's a little empty space because for some reason the paint didn't hit that. So no biggie. We're going to come over here, start at this corner. We will come down. That was as comfortable without picking up my hand and moving. Now you can move while you're making a line, but I would rather just retrace that part. Go like that. And I think this outline is definitely, it helps this pop against the background, creates some separation. Obviously it's optional, you don't have to do that. We could have done this in the reverse. We could have done this liquid acrylic for the whole background, right? And after that was done, let it dry fully, and then we could have painted above it. As you probably have seen in in a few of my paintings, that is a technique that I have employed. For example, the parrot, right? So that puppy is now outlined, and let's go ahead and sign it. Let's use white because we're going to sign it down here. Obviously black would just blend in that dark purple. So I'm shaking this up a little bit, and let's take a paper towel. I don't have any paper here. So, and let's press this down, get some more ink to flow. I think this marker doesn't flow that well, that's why. There we go. And so one more dot for fun, why not? And so there you have it. What do you guys think? This is the final product. I'm trying to get this puppy in frame as best that I can. Yeah, so this is the Moon Cat. I hope you guys like this tutorial. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to mix the paint in order to prepare it for this type of liquid acrylic or acrylic pouring technique. There are different things you can do. I will just mention real quick that we use the swipe technique using a piece of plastic, right? You can also take a paper towel and pull this or saran wrap over the paint to pull it, etc. Now that works differently. This will pull more paint. A paper towel or saran wrap will pull less paint. It really depends what you're going for. I like these squeegees because, anyway, I have them in lots of different sizes so I can maneuver them. In fact, I should have used a smaller one for this particular size, but it still worked out. I hit the border already with a Posca marker, so this puppy looks ready to go. Now, if I was to varnish this with a brush-on varnish, like I said, this has the acrylic marker. That acrylic marker, both the white and the black, will get picked up by the varnish. So I should hit it with some spray varnish first, let that dry, then I can do some brush-on varnish for a second coat. I hope you guys like this tutorial. Please share it with your friends if you did. Until next time, guys, I'm out.